Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you to be there for this Paris Air Forum. I am Stefan Berensky. I'm the chief editor of the Aerospatiale magazine. I've been covering space for more than 3 decades now. And well, you see, there was stigmatas. And for 3 decades, I've been the feeling that I've been told all the time. It's, ooh, European industry is among the best in the world, but we are lagging behind what is done elsewhere, and we will never be able to catch up, and oh, it's really difficult, and the others are so better than us. And the funny thing is that every time I travel, I see things around. I see European plasma thrusters, European altimeters, European solar panels, European laser terminals, everywhere. People buying European satellites. So, well, how can we have the both at the same time? And well, and recently there's been an acceleration, or at least a feeling of acceleration, and which is quite impressive. And if I quote one of the former head of CNES, well, the feeling is that, oh my God, we have to wake up, else we're all gonna die. So I hope that the picture is not that grim. Don't laugh, Peter, please. I hope the picture is not that grim, but to have a better idea of what is actually going on, I have the honor, and I've lost all your pedigrees. It must be there. I have the honor to have 4 panelists. First of all, Géraldine Naja, Director of Commercialization, Industry and Competitiveness at the European Space Agency. Alain Fauré, General Manager for Space at Airbus Defense and Space. Lionel Suchet, everybody knows Lionel Suchet, Deputy CEO of CNES. And live from Italy via Zoom, we have Massimo Comparini, Managing Director of Leonardo's Space Division.
Good morning. Also, if I don't understand exactly what you say, but good morning. Unfortunately, the audio on my side is not good. I cannot understand it. But anyhow,
sorry for
I hope that you can hear me.
Sorry for my bad English. I'm trying my best. So, ladies first. Well, Géraldine, you've been at this post for almost 3.5 years. You've been, well, actually, you opened that position, and it's complicated. I should have been able to print this. Well, so it's a new position. It was a new position at ESA. What was the rationale behind its creation, and what have you been pushing for, and possibly already changed over the last years?
Thank you, Stefan, and good morning, everyone. Well, the rationale is exactly in the title, so commercialization and competitiveness. So I start with competitiveness because I think it's the most crucial element, in the sense that industry is, since a couple of years now, submitted to a very high competitive pressure, with also new actors, and they have a real problem, and they need, I think, the support of public funding, including ESA, to help with the competitiveness, because some, let's say, well-known competitors across the Atlantic are heavily supported by public funding, and we are shy in those matters. But also commercialization, because also we see the so-called new space movement, which for me is more, first of all, it's not so new anymore, and also it's more of an approach than a type of company, because as, for instance, Airbus has proven, you can do new space in a very well-established company with OneWeb. So it's an approach, a new approach that brings more innovation, more focus on customer needs, on cost effectiveness, and it's a good approach. So I think this is the rationale for the creation of this position. Support competitiveness of European industry and adopt a more commercially oriented approach. Now, what I have done in these last 3.5 years, first of all, set up a transversal program at ESA dedicated to supporting commercialization called Scale Up. So it's about incubation with a, let's say, a network of business incubators, innovation with the PhilabNet, also investment, access to private investment. We have an investor network that now counts more than 70 participants. And also a new approach within ESA. But also, and this is important, a change in the ESA policies, and that has to do with contracts, new regulations, accelerated time to contract. With industrial policy, of course, geo-return, more flexibility, I think we shall come back to that. And also profit, a new profit policy, which is perhaps not enough seen from an industrial point of view, but which is a first step in addressing the profitability difficulties of industry.
Well, you have plenty of things we continue to discuss after that. While we're in agencies, Lionel, there's a strong tradition of creativity in CNES, and I quite often present you quite provocatively as the original new space, because, well, you created Ariane Espace and created Spot Image, well, you changed everything. Well, people have short memory, but... and, well, today, is CNES an old Victorian lady with plenty of nice jewels, or is the revolutionary spirit still there?
Stefan, and first, thanks for your provocation. I love this provocation about the first new space, because it's important, and also it shows that it always has been a new space, and we will go back on that later, but new space is not specific now. It's always has been like that, and CNES, of course, is a strong organism for creativity and preparing the future of space, and we are still there, and it's important to say that. Just a few examples of world premieres we did after the 80s. You mentioned Ariane and Spot, it's okay. But we have launched a few weeks ago the best atomic clock in space with Pharaoh, which is perfectly working. We have opened a new window on science, on oceanography science with SWOT some years ago, two years ago now. It's a revolution for oceanography in cooperation with GPL. SACE, the seismometer on Mars, we were the first to measure Marsquake on Mars surface with a seismometer, an amazing seismometer we developed around Paris here in CNES. SuperCam ChemCam is a revolution also to make the exploration of the Mars planet, because we are able to test the rocks up to 10 meters around the rovers, and it's a very new, it's a world premiere. The first image, we are talking a lot about James Webb Space Telescope and the far observation of the universe. But the first image of the universe, when the universe became transparent just after the Big Bang, has been taken by a French instrument on board a NASA mission called Planck. It was a little bit, but it is a world premiere. And so on. Philae, the first we were to land on a Churyumov-Gerasimenko comet. So a lot of premiere. So we're still there, and we are still developing a lot of world premiere, and the creativity and the preparation of the future is a must for CNES. But we are in this position to do marvelous things at scientific level, but the ecosystem, as you said, is evolving. Space is evolving a lot, and we are not now alone to do this world premiere. We are also to do that with our partners for ecosystem, with the prime partners, with the startup partners, to make creativity not only about the space system, but also about the use of data, of space data. And what we do with Keynote, for instance, about the first constellation for IoT, is also a big creativity. It is done these days. What we did, and we are doing with Airbus Defense and Space, with CO3D satellites, is a lot of creativity, and so we are there. And so, yes, it's an ADN of CNES to be creative and to prepare the future, and it is still the case in a different world, with different ways to do that, with different partners, but it is a backbone of our activity.
Good. Well, Mr. Fauré, as a Frenchman, I've always been impressed that two among the largest satellite manufacturers were actually next door. Well, one is Franco-German, the other is Franco-Italian, but well, it's always surprising when you think all the French bashing that there is all the time. Well, I also realized, following the industry, that many of your traditional competitors are making so much money on DoD contract that they don't even bother go on the commercial market anymore. Well, they have contracts that are bigger than your than your sales for years. So it's, well, it's let's don't get there. But you've been really creative, you and the others, to keep up the fight on every business, even going into mega constellations, which is normally a business where mega constellations are made by the operator themselves. So it's quite, well, good job. But well, the situation is the situation as grim as Mr. Baptiste said, or how would you describe the current situation for you?
So thank you. Indeed, for Airbus in Space, 2024 was a difficult year with significant financial charges. 25, we are stabilizing, we are back on track. I think it's a good news. First, on program execution, we have this year the challenge to launch 10 complex satellites, and we are in roadmap. 4 are already in orbit. 1 for ESA, METOP, is in the route to Kourou. Same, you mentioned CO3D S250 for very innovative satellite for imagery in the route to Kourou as well in a couple of days, because they are now in the shipment phase. And the last one, to go to 10, is in the final stage of integration in our clean room. So I think in execution, back on track for this challenge to launch this 10 complex satellite. You mentioned the constellation. Yes, Airbus was involved in the constellation and is involved in the constellation. We were pleased in December 2024 to sign a contract for 100 additional satellites for OneWeb, for Eutelsat, an important customer for us. So we'll produce this time this satellite in France, in Toulouse, to be more accurate. So I think it's a good news to have this continuity of OneWeb, because it's a very important solution for the sovereignty in Europe when we are talking about the other constellation. So with this example, just to figure out the fact that, yes, we are back on track in 2025. It's not indeed, but we are here. Second, because this question as well of competitiveness of the industry, we have launched in 2024 a transformation plan. The purpose of the transformation plan is to address the competitiveness, or profitability, you mentioned it, and globally our efficiency. And we are in a roadmap for this as well. And I cannot stop this first question without mentioning what's happening with my two colleagues. We are preparing an important milestone for the future of Europe in space, which is the ministerial ESA in November. So we are in the preparatory phase and a lot of work, for sure in France, whatever the country, so with the authorities, the member state, to have an increase, a significant increase of the budget, because space is not only satellite and rocket, it's more than that, it's sovereignty, it's sustainability.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Comparini, do you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah.
The mic of my friend Lionel is the best. So I don't know if maybe you can be closer or a little bit far with the mic, because it's not the audio is often interrupted. Lionel, I understand very well, and also Alain.
Okay, so my question is, well, for a long time, I thought that Leonardo was 2/3 of Telespazio, 1/3 of Thales Aerospace, and a few equipments. Well, apparently this is changing. You're making more and more a name by yourself. What is going on? Please tell us.
Okay, so first of all, Stefan, let me say that if you hear me well.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, of course, let's say Leonardo is involved in the Space Alliance with our partners and friends of Thales since 2005. And, I was across the company, so this Space Alliance over my past 20 years. Uh, this is not the only activities that so far Leonardo has in space. Lionel, remember, quite a remarkable technology for Europe, which is the atomic clocks of our navigation system, our Galileo, that is produced in our plants in Campi Bisenzio. And so we had the scientific payload, the robotics. But it's a fact that it's true that in the past few months, in our update industrial plan, we gave a specific emphasis on space. And by the way, a few months ago, as a part of this, we constitute the space division, the Leonardo Space Division that the CEO of the group, Professor Cingolani, asked me to lead. Why? We know that space is changing, and we have huge amount of data which is generated from space infrastructure. Think about Earth observation, Copernicus, the raising constellations. Connectivity is also a way where we have a huge amount of data passing at super high speed on our systems. Alain, remember OneWeb, which is, let's say, one of the constellation or mega constellation in place. It's not the only one. Of course, we know very well what happened in US. So data and space are more and more linked, and digital technologies and space technologies are more and more linked to extract information. Why not to have processing of those data, not necessarily on ground, but also in space, and so on. So the group massively invested in digital technologies in the past years with the supercomputing, high-power computing, AI, cloud technologies. And we think that the convergence of space technologies and digital technologies, it's really important to provide to the final users, wherever they are, I mean, scientific communities, let's say commercial user communities, defense and security and mil user communities, the best from our infrastructure, as well as, let's say, the integration of different layer of services. And we really think that this is a contribution to the growth, first of all, of our industrial system, the Space Alliance, Thales Alenia, and Telespazio, but also it's an input for the supply chain. And I'm really glad to say in front of Geraldine, because of course we know how space is shaped, we know the role of large-scale integrator, but we really think that we need to involve in the entire European ecosystems a number of smaller companies and startups that really can contribute. So this is in a very short, Stefan, the reason why, let's say, we are so vocal in space, the reason why we constitute the space divisions, and the domain that we're looking at, Earth observation and geospatial, space surveillance, in-orbit service, and more in general, looking also to our capability, the capability in the construction of infrastructure, the low Earth orbit, last not least, connectivity and cloud in space.
Thank you very much. Well, let's go deeper in the topic, and please keep your answers short. Let's define what we're talking about. What is competitiveness? What are we looking for? Is this being able to face SpaceX and the other big Americans as equals? Is it about being able to have a seat in any new kind of contraption the US government invents? Or is it about taking a reasonable but significant share of the international market? Or is it just being about to resist all of them? Who wants to take it?
I will tell you how we see competitiveness at ESA. Of course, the industrial colleagues may have different views, but I think competitiveness, first of all, is not only linked to cost, because it's sometimes difficult to be cost competitive, but what we are good at in Europe, and that was highlighted, of course, by Lionel and by our programs, is the excellence, the innovation, and the services. And for instance, Ariane may not have been the cheapest launcher, but it was the most precise and reliable one, and that counts. Second, competitiveness for our industry is linked to the markets it can access. And unfortunately, you were mentioning SpaceX, these are non-accessible markets for European industry. So if there is a not enough accessible market, it's more difficult. But most important, you mentioned new markets or emerging markets, is also to be able to address these new markets. And for that, I think you need a lot of investment in innovation, in technology, which in turn means profit, because we want industry to be able to invest, but also public support. And there again, I think space agencies have a big role to play in supporting competitiveness.
To make it short, yes, competitiveness, it's very important. It's all the dimensions. I mean, to have the good condition in place, good solution in place to serve our customer. It's about the cost. It's about as well the profitability of our solution. As you mentioned previously, industry has to be able to invest in the future, and for that we need to be profitable. And there is as well another dimension, which is the affordability. Yes, the open market, but as well the affordability of the solution. So for that, I think the industry has is on work to do, and the reason why in Airbus, but I think it's the same in some other company, we have launched a transformation plan to address the competitiveness. We need as well to have the condition in place, and I think it's the role of, that you described previously when it's concerned ESA, to put the condition in place to have industry successful development in the various program. For sure, we need to have a flagship program as well to help us and to prepare and to mature the technology, and sometimes as well to think about incremental approach to mature and to improve the solution and to have this type of incremental approach with out of cycle development to mature the technology, because the affordability of the solution for a customer is the price, but is the time to market as well. So reuse can be key when we have the good technology, and I think we have some good technology in our portfolio.
I love the idea to be able to answer our needs and with a reasonable solutions, respecting also the environment. This is also competitiveness. Not our value is not space dominance. Is answer our needs with good solution, and we have an industry in Europe which is at top level, at technical level. We have to stay at this level with industry which makes benefit. It's also important. If not, there is no more industry. So to have industry, we make benefit with good solution they have in their hands, and to go further, respecting the environment with a reasonable development of space activity. All that is also competitiveness, and to be able to address new markets with these values, and to attract newcomers into space with these new values.
Massimo, what would be your?
Yeah, just few notes on my side. I think that, but this is a well recognized, I think, by all the actors. I mean, the industrial actors, the space agency, ESA. I think that we have all the technologies and the competences for a global competitiveness. We need to be faster. This is a fact. When flagship programs are decided, that we need to act with a different speed, which is, of course, is a common responsibility for all the ecosystem. The second, let's say, we need to help to avoid risk-adverse approach. What does it mean? Of course, we know that still space is a risky business. If we want really to go to state-of-art performance, we need technology push. We need state-of-art technologies. And we need to find a system that, again, is not just a responsibility of the space agency or the industry. It's an ecosystem responsibility to de-risk technologies, to make technologies available at the right level of maturity, including manufacturing readiness level, to be injected in the programs in a way that we don't see or we don't push for risk-adverse approach to avoid losses that risky program may occur. So I think honestly that Europe has proven that we can do that. It's a fact that maybe we were a bit slow to realize that world is going faster. We don't have just US and China. We have other not anymore emerging space power, big countries where cooperation is possible. Just an example, India. But we need to be faster, and this is a common responsibility for the entire system, I think.
Thank you. Well, so things we've been talking about risk adverse and agility. It's time to talk about new space, which is not that new, as I remember. SpaceX is 20 years old now, and well, yes. Well, depends on when you start to count. Well, okay, but well, we have this question of being more agile, so which pushes for new space, but we have to make complex investments with complex structures because we are plenty of countries with different approaches, ideas. So how do we combine this? Is new space really helping, or is it a distraction sometimes? How do you feel this? Who want to take it?
I propose to start, to change a little bit. Just a testimony. I've been appointed head of space system 1 year ago, and I was previously in engineering system in Airbus Commercial, in Airbus Aircraft. And I heard the story, new space, all space, and when I visited the Airbus site to see the various innovation, I was surprised to be considered as all space when I see the innovation around the flexible payload, software-defined radios. They are state-of-the-art in terms of software, in terms of electronics. When I have a look on the performance of the satellite called CO3D for imagery and revisit purpose in observation, is a state-of-the-art in terms of technology. And by the way, we work on this type of satellite with a lot of SME, small and medium enterprise. So it's a full ecosystem to bring this value. So yes, a little bit tired by this notion of space, new space, once innovation, no innovation, because it doesn't reflect the reality. I strongly believe on the complementarity. Sometimes we need the startup to push a new solution, and we need us, industry, more mature, to industrialize the solution, to go not only to stay at innovation level, but really to propose a solution. This is the first one, and we have a concrete example of success. We mentioned OneWeb previously. The platform developed on OneWeb called Arrow 150. We are supplier on a so-called startup, Loft Orbital. We provide this platform to the Loft Orbital. So it's a concrete and efficient collaboration between startup and other player. But I don't know if the good wording is old and new space, to be frank.
Just to add to what Alain said,
as a new space yourself,
as a first new space actor, no, I don't like this word because, of course, it is an opposition between what is new space and what is old space in front of new space. And it's not the case. It's not because, well, yes, we had an evolution or a revolution of space activities with new services, new use of data, and we can explain because of the digital revolution and so on, the miniaturization of technology, it can be explained, this evolution. And with more markets, investments, newcomers, startups, and so on. Yes, it is the case. But it's not because we had a lot of startups that nothing was evolving at the prime level or at SMEs, traditional SMEs level. They change also a lot. And it's, in fact, new space is a new way to do space with another way to deal with risk, as said Massimo, and also to adapt methodology, to be quicker, to be more market focused. And at the same time, we need to say that for a big system like CSO for military purpose and so on, is other methodology, is other things. So we have a lot of possibilities open now, and all the actors go into this direction. And it's time not to oppose all that, but to work with the ecosystem. We have a very rich and diverse ecosystem now in France and in Europe, and we have to deal with it to make space further. That's the point.
I will rebound on that with a tiny perfect question. You've been pouring money on the startup ecosystem with the France Relance,
France 2030, yes,
France 2030 and France 2030. We're in English. Are you happy with the results?
Yes. And the fact, in the old way we saw space, some people thought that the objective was to have a good project until the end for each investment or each initiative. It was not the case. Of course, we had failure, and we will have failure, and we will have no way to go on for some project. But it is okay. And for some others, there are very good results. And startups are working with primes now to develop new systems, new methodology, and it's a reality. And now, after this phase of a lot of startups growing, now there is a phase where there will be less reconstruction, recombination, even cooperation with the primes, and it is a way to go on. So yes, it was a good thing to do.
I would like to add one thing. Indeed, it's not a distraction, because in fact, if you look at the ESA budget, I mean, a very large majority goes to established companies, including also equipment suppliers, not only integrators, but also SMEs, but established ones. I would say perhaps 100, 200, it depends how you calculate, million per year would go to startups, which is very small compared to the ESA budget. It's small amounts of incubation. No distraction, but a very useful complement. And I would just like to mention, of course, many startups, if they are successful, if they grow, they may become bought also by larger companies.
It happens.
It happens already. And also, if you look at large programs, such as Copernicus, we have the Copernicus contributing missions, including former startups such as ISI. So indeed, it has to be seen as a good addition, a good emulation to be more efficient, to be more dynamic. So I see only benefits and no distraction at all.
And the big ones are not that risk adverse because, well, when I see one sat, well, it costs some money, and I don't see a company living on venture capitalism surviving doing that, but Airbus is doing it.
Yes, I can confirm.
I'm sorry, it's not really, yeah. Massimo.
Stefan, just a quick comment. I fully agree with Lionel. I don't like new space because if there is someone which is new space, there are other players that are hold space. So I don't think that this is the way to define the evolution of our sector. First of all, because I feel myself still young and fresh, so I don't like to be on the part of the old space because simply we work in a big company on a large scale integrator. and the programs that we mentioned, Copernicus, Galileo, but even what Europe is doing now in exploration, a low Earth orbit shows that also big groups together with their supply chain may be extremely innovative. So I don't think that to be innovative and to bring new ideas necessarily, you need to find a new startups. On the other hand, I agree with Geraldine, we have a richness that we need to take care. So space is changing. There is an evolution in terms of technology, in terms of business model, and the actors change. And for sure, small, medium enterprises and startups may contribute, and the responsibility of the large group is together to harvest this innovation and insert in the critical mass that they can manage. So I think sometimes we look too much to US on this new space wave. Personally, I had experience a couple of decades ago when there was the first wave of constellation based on business model going to commercial, and we know that that was not the purpose at that time. Take an example, Iridium, Global-Star, and that was very detrimental at the end because the investors, the private investors, stay away from space for a number of years due to this bubble. So I think that we need to take care, and I personally, I believe maybe in a more solid growth of the space economy that in Europe we can do in the condition to be faster. New space economy is not companies that take $300 million in 3 waves, in 3 rounds of funding. They go to IPO, $10, and 3 years later they're exchanged at $1. This is not a space economy. This is a destruction of value. So I think that we need to be very very cautious to let's say, to see those economic models for the benefit of our European space industry. All of that, all over the value chain.
Well, I think I will reshuffle my questions and go directly to the big elephant in the room. It's not me too.
It's not nice for Lionel, but okay.
Yeah, there's a big talk currently, big discussion between 2 large groups regarding the consolidation, 3 groups, the consolidation of some space industry in Europe for critical mass. Well, let's say, okay, let's name it Airbus Satellites, Thales Alenia Space, and Leonardo Space. Why don't we push everything together to have a big player with a lot of muscles to be able to compete worldwide? Which, well, when we try to be more agile, building something bigger, it might not be the logical. Well, I have been the witness of a few things in the past regarding big consolidations, notably in Germany. There was a time when it was decided to put everyone under the same room, and they called it DASA, Dutch Aerospace. And the first time the German government decided to launch a competition, say, oh, we have only one contender, let's foster a new one. And that was OHB made its entrance in the business. Several years later, there was the Galileo program, where Airbus and Thales were, let's say, forced to work together on a project of satellite, and say, oh, we need a competitor. Oh, let's go to OHB. So, well, and OHB won. That's the story. So, how pushing together all these different talents with many of different approaches to problems together for synergies, which means let's reduce the number of talents, will help Europe to be more competitive, or will this be just another opportunity for OHB to grow even bigger? Who wants to answer that? Because, well, we have 2 of the 3 groups that are discussing this, and we have 2 of the biggest customers they will have.
Massimo, do you hear me? Maybe I can start, Alain speaking.
Okay, Alain, go ahead.
No, just a question regarding about this potential consolidation. First, we are at the preliminary phase. That means, yes, there are discussions in progress. We are in the exploratory phase to see the value to create this consolidation between these three players. So it's a question of value creation, condition in place. So everything is preliminary, everything is non-binding. So we are, for the time being, in this discussion and preliminary phase. So only message that will pass this morning.
Massimo, do you want to add something?
No, I mean, I think that at the end, the topic is complex and simple at the same time. Simple because, of course, in not only space, but in many different sectors, so we reflect how Europe may have the critical mass to be competitive at global level. So why space is different. And of course, the acceleration in space coming from companies like you mentioned, SpaceX, Starlink, Blue Origin is giving another element in this respect. So I think that to find a way that Europe is less fragmented and we found let's say the best synergies between European level and the national sovereign issues, I think it's an important topic, and so it's not a surprise that also in space we could have a discussion about that. I think what is important is that first of all, consolidation is not good just to make consolidation or to make bigger. Consolidation, if it's going to happen, must be to be competitive, must be to exploit the best synergies. And as I said, and again, I'm really convinced of that, must be to be a champion, a driver for the entire ecosystem. So not only, let's say, to take the majority of contract at institutional level. So I think that, I know this is a kind of general statement, it's a level statement, but I really believe that is the principle of any consolidation. So in this respect, I think it's not the last time, it's not the first time, it will be not the last time that large groups having a successful story. I mean, Airbus has a very successful story on aircraft, and we know what is the impact for Europe, may talk each other, and then let's say it's a complex topic, and we will see.
Stefan, just to say that, of course, this is an industrial topic, but we are looking at that very carefully. And the idea, as it was said, is to be stronger, within Europe, because the competition is with outside Europe, and to be stronger within Europe, it's a goal. So if the solution lead to be weaker or not stronger, it won't be a good solution. We have to say that, and we will see. They are working together to find a solution to be stronger at European level, and this is a goal. And another thing is competition is always seen as a good tool. It's often the case, but there is also bad competition, and I have some example in mind when we had strong competition within some actors in Europe, and which leads that at the end, the one who win the contract lose money to this contract, and this is a machine to lose, and we don't have to go this way also. So we have to be careful on that, and the only goal is to be stronger for space at European level.
Perhaps as the second large customer, or okay. First of all, global competitiveness is in our convention, so we are going to support whatever helps worldwide competitiveness. That is clear. Now, it's true also that competition is also in our convention, and we need to have intra-European competition. But as you said, we already have intra-European competition. OHB is still very much alive and growing. And it's not only OHB, by the way, it's other large equipment suppliers across Europe who are really becoming very good. So I'm not concerned. I think we can find ways to maintain intra-European competition. And by the way, this is not ESA or CNES to judge, it's the Commission. We are already discussing with DG Competition, and it's, if anyone, it's them who will have to judge whether this potential merge is, let's say, allowable to maintain a good competition in Europe. But I think, let's not forget, as you say, prime objective, worldwide competitiveness.
Well, there's an issue there because, well, I see a lot of protectionism everywhere. So will there be still some international market where we will be allowed to compete elsewhere?
I mean, the others protect much more than we do.
Yeah.
We don't protect. As a minimum, I think there should be a European preference. I mean, that's the minimum. And this does not exist fully for the time being. I think this is confronted to the very high protectionism of our competitors. This should be implemented seriously.
Okay, now I have a challenge for you, Geraldine. We have 2 minutes left to tackle the question of geo-return.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, what I can say, first I would like to know if anyone in this room invests without hoping to get return on their investment. I don't think so. When you invest, you want return. Having said that, you want good return. And it's true that if you implement it badly and if you prevent competition by doing geo-return, this is not good. So the principle, I think, is normal. Everyone wants return on investment, but it has to be more flexible, and it has to be possible to have it with competition. And for that, there is a solution. It's called fair contribution. That is, instead of placing contracts on the basis of the geo-return goals, you first do the competition, you define the industrial consortium, and then the contributions come as an outcome. And in fact, geo-return is a sign of competitiveness. That is my solution, and that is the way in which we are trying to evolve geo-return. We have started, we have already done some small evolutions, but you have to start from somewhere, and I tell you it will continue.
I remember that Jean-Jacques Dordain tried that in the past. It was quite difficult. I hope it will succeed.
Thank you.
And well, we have 47 seconds left, and I promise the audience, and namely Peter de Selling, will be able to ask a question.
A quick one for Massimo. Last I could ask, your CEO has been, boy, it's hard to see through these lights. Your CEO has been very clear that whatever happens with the Airbus discussions and so on, he wants to see what he calls TAS 2.0, Thales Alenia Space 2.0. That after 20 years of this joint venture, he wants to see changes in it. I suppose that means a higher percentage of the equity from Leonardo, but tell me, what would be the differences between TAS 2.0, as Leonardo is looking for, and the current Thales Alenia Space? Thanks.
Okay, I hope to catch what precisely what Peter said. I think that you know, Peter, I'm a technology guy, so I'm more looking to the technology and the evolution of our systems. Space 20 years was different than this today. By the way, SpaceX was not founded, so everyone is looking to SpaceX, so it was not founded. So I think that it's not a question of 2.0 in principle and paper. I mean, we need to understand how today, whatever are the partnership, the alliances, the consolidation, we can react in a more effective, rapid, technology solid way to the competition. And that's the evolution of the industry, not only the space industry. So I think that is absolutely normal between partners to reflect how to be more effective, to be more quick, and to be more competitive. That's it.
Well, thank you very much. Time is gone. So I ask you to please thank all our panelists. We had plenty of more questions, but well, there are coffee for that. Merci beaucoup.
Ciao, ciao.
Dear participants of the Paris Air Forum, it gives me great pleasure to convey my very best regards to the Paris Air Forum, both as Director General of the European Space Agency, but also personally. This year's topic, sovereignties and AI, is particularly timely. Artificial intelligence has and will have a major impact on the space sector, from processing data collected by space systems to streamlining the structure and improving the efficiency of the space industrial supply chain. As a powerhouse of European innovation, ESA has already addressed this technology, for instance through its missions FISAT-1 and FISAT-2. Space is a critical sector for European autonomy. The role of space for the economy and security of European states is bound to increase. Recognizing this trend, ESA has developed the Strategy 2040, which aims to achieve 5 goals. Number 1, protecting our planet and climate. Number 2, exploring and discovering. Number 3, strengthening European autonomy and resilience. Number 4, boosting European growth and competitiveness. And number 5, inspiring Europe. Industry has a key role to play in our efforts. A strong and autonomous Europe in space is only possible with a strong and sovereign European space industry. To this end, ESA is taking steps to evolve and simplify the G-return principle without losing its benefits. At the same time, ESA aims to preserve the diversification of industrial capabilities that leads to resilience. ESA also supports the sovereignty and excellence of Europe by pushing science and exploration. In science, the Bepi-Colombo mission is expected to orbit Mercury at the end of next year, while the JUICE spacecraft, which was launched 2 years ago, will retrieve unprecedented data on Jupiter and the Jovian system at the start of the next decade. In exploration, we will pursue European ambitions in low Earth orbit and towards the Moon and Mars, together with traditional and new partners. For instance, ESA has recently signed a joint statement of intent with the Indian Space Research Organization on human space exploration. Ladies and gentlemen, you see, collaboration is at the heart of space activities, be it with other partners or with new tools such as AI. This forum is a unique opportunity to highlight what AI can do for the space sector and to prepare the future. I'm convinced that you will make good use of this opportunity and wish you all a very successful event. Thank you.
Eh bien, bonjour et merci de nous avoir rejoints ici pour ce thème transport aérien et géopolitique, les enjeux du multilatéralisme. Nous allons parler en français, en anglais. Évidemment, la présentation tout de suite pour gagner du temps puisque nous sommes limités, vous le savez, en fonction malgré tout des horaires. Et puis, cette session est particulièrement intéressante, donc j'essaierai de ne pas trop parler. Alors, well, I introduce first Mr. Mohamed Hadou, your CEO of Royal Air Maroc. You're from 97, well, génie civil, as we said in France, diplômé, l'école Mohammedia de Rabat. You from 216 CEO of Royal Air Maroc by the King, Mohammed VI. And, well, engineering awards, it's very important. And you are representing the African airlines as, well, many power, well, in your hands. The other one is Mr. Well, we change because the Nigerian ministry is not available, but Mr. Oliver Ibirandu, that's right. I pronounce a good one. You're aerospace engineers and CEO of Aerospace Limited in Lagos. The other one, and Mr. Kaji. Well, well, Mr. Kaji, Priyank, that's right, Priyank, like the Indian Ministry of the government of Karnataka, 3 times member of Legislative Assembly, serving in the Cabinet Ministry of this government, Ministry of IT, BT, and Tourism. And, well, and for France, well, we know better Mr. Jean-Baptiste Djibari. Alors, well, Jean-Baptiste is, for us, for the French journalists, it's important because it's a minister. Well, he knows what he do because he is a pilot, license on the Pilatus piece. Well, okay, and Jeff Legs, the other one. For us, it's important to have a ministry we know very air transport and all the commercial and aeronautical issue well. And first, well, for Mr. Kaji, you know, well, at first, well, after the terrible and crash of Air India, well, I express my thought, my deepest condolence to the family, for the victims, for Air India, for the Indian people, for the aeronautic sector, because we are so close. Every company, every airline was so close. And, well, we know that we said that the air transport is safe, but risk zero don't exist. Well, and we are very close from you, and we think very on all your families. And, well, the question is, as we said, the transport geopolitics, and, well, I feature someone because, well, for French people, because we are in France, we said that 86% by the FNAM, the merchant aviation, and you have the federal, the airport said, well, Hoppender in the job partners 79, essential for economical and tower development 78.6. Well, aviation is very important for the people, and I believe that we know we have the bashing issue. Well, you have, but maybe it's the past, because I don't know exactly. And Mr. Who you said maybe at first, what do you think about this event? Well, we know that the growth is here, and well, the traffic doubled in 20 years maybe. And for you, well, and for RAM, what exactly? What do you expect? Well, what is your most important facts, well, with this air transport sector?
Well, thank you. Hello, everybody. First, I would like to present my condolences to my colleague, Mr. Minister. It's always a tragic moment to face those kind of accidents, but I believe we will all overcome this. Look, your question about developing airlift and the bashing that can happen is to us not really relevant. Airlift is not a luxury. It's a mean for development. It's a way for us, for our countries, to develop themselves. It's connecting regions, remote regions, bringing different activities and industries like tourism. It is enhancing the well-being of our people. So it's not a luxury. So today, those who are asking for stopping the airlift, maybe they're thinking about their own environment, which is their own countries. But for us, countries from the south, it's not a luxury, it's a need.
It's more useful, well, useful and more necessary mode of transport?
It's a need. Some regions in our continent, in Africa, you can't drive from point A to point B. You can't have a railroad. You can have you can't travel by boats. The only way to connect two cities or two countries in our continent is the airlift. And for us, it's again a need, a necessity.
Mr. Kaji, I believe for you, for your continent, well, airplane is so important.
Firstly, thank you on behalf of my fellow countrymen for the condolences that has been expressed at this forum. I think it's very gracious of all of you to do so. Having said that, civil aviation is something that's very important for the growth of a country that is as huge as India. We are the third biggest civil aviation market. We have close to around 850 commercial fleet and another 750 in the waiting. And we are a young nation when it comes to aviation, commercial aviation. So while the average aircraft age across the globe is 14 and a half years, in India it's close to around 7.2 years. And connectivity is huge. We are growing at a rapid rate. We are growing at close to 7% year on year. And more importantly, the government is not just building infrastructure, but it's also ensuring a lot of incentives and subsidies for companies, private companies to fly. Similarly to Africa, it is just not a luxury. For us, it's connectivity. It's improving local economic activities. It is ensuring that we create infrastructure that can cater not only for local activities, but also regional activities. And more importantly, we see a lot of traction being global players as well. So I think civil aviation is something that the government has, both the regional governments as well as the central governments have given huge thrust to. And there is tremendous potential of growth. We are adding another 350 airports throughout the country, and in the next couple of years, 50 more will be coming up. And everything is in the tier 2 and the tier 3 cities. We are not adding one more airport to a metro, one more airport to a cosmopolitan. So the connectivity is going to be good to ensure local economic acceleration.
Well, Mr. Barandu, well, I believe it's about the same thing for you. Well, the air traffic will be an essential vector of economic growth and quality of life.
Good morning, everybody. Let me join everybody else to my condolence and my heart goes out to the people who lost their life in the India crash of yesterday. I think what happens when that happens in the industry, we in the industry experts, it's just like a wake-up call that is all not too yet as far as safety is concerned. Right, back to what your question. I think with my colleague here from Royal Air Morocco, so when we talk about Africa, it's almost the same challenges that we are having in Africa, because especially my country, Nigeria, with the population of, which is the most populous nation in Africa, we have lots of problems traveling by road, not only the poor road infrastructure, but also we are suffering insecurity on the road. I don't remember if a journey is like 30 minutes or less within the city. I can imagine I've not made such a journey in the last 10 years by road. It's always by air, whether helicopter or jet or commercial airliners. So, and on the infrastructure deficit which we have, you talk about air traffic. I've talked about my country because obviously I'm more knowledgeable about what happens in the Nigeria. Government is doing a lot, to improve on the air traffic for Nigeria, because that's an area, not only the equipment, but also the skill set required to, because most times we have about 22 airports which are government owned, and another 5 or so that are privately owned airports. Most times some of these airports are not operated because of the lack of skills, and also they shut down like daytime, so we don't have that night operations, and that's actually affecting most of the airlines, so that's actually a challenge which the government also is looking into. The new minister is on top of that. He had information from airlines, and he wants to work to make sure that he solves that problem.
Well, Jean-Baptiste, very well. I hope the door will, because, well, air traffic, as Mr. said, well, is the cornerstone, the most important stone of development in these countries, and for India, for Nigeria, for Morocco, and maybe for Europe.
Yeah, I think you put it right. First, allow me to join everyone and express my sympathy to the people of India and to the Air India staff. We had the chance to meet last night, but again, we're all with you. I was lucky enough to actually travel quite a lot the last 3 years. So I went to see His Excellency in Morocco. I went to India. I was in India last week, and I went to Nigeria a few times. So I think it's good for Europeans sometimes to de-self-center. We tend to see that what we're living as a mature market, having this discussion, which always or sometimes are very French about the aviation bashing, is not happening anywhere else in Europe most of the time, and certainly not in the world. So the world is about getting air traffic safe, and it's an everyday battle. Is getting air connectivity and accompany the growth of the emerging countries. And even if you were willing to cap air traffic, when you have like 1.4 billion inhabitants in India, 300 million in Indonesia, 400 million tomorrow in Nigeria, I mean, people, they have the absolute right to travel. There are middle class emerging all around the world, and air traffic is one of the components of the country being prosperous and being stable. So I think we tend to see in Europe, the aviation is in a kind of linear story. There were safety that was ticked, then there was democratization, the price going down, and now there is decarbonization. But I think first, history is never linear. We live in a world of trade wars, sometimes actual wars, and it does have an impact. I mean, look at the air traffic, look at the routes that the aircraft, since today, for instance, take in the Middle East. So I think we need to, us Europeans, cease to think that it's always linear. We're having the objective and trying to put our objectives to the rest of the world, because it's not going to happen that way. I think that's a very important message, and that's why I'm also very happy to be among Nick's panel today. But I also think it's a great opportunity for Europe to actually work on more win-win relationships. You were mentioning the infrastructure in Nigeria. There are many things we can do together there. There are many airports being developed, not only passenger airport, but freight airport, and of course, European skills. And operations can be a very nice win-win situation and relationship. There are many things to do with our friends of Royal Air Maroc. I'm sure we were discussing that a bit earlier. And of course, India is a very, very big market. And take Indigo Airlines, for instance. They have 400 aircraft, a bit more than that. They have nearly 1,000 aircraft in order. There are airports developing and no alternatives by road or any other means in the short-term future. So there are many things to be done there. And
I see the foreseeable 10 to 15 years as being the opportunity for Europe and the rest of the world to connect on aviation, because aviation is a strong asset for Europe, the industry, the operations. So I'm much more positive than sometimes the debate is here in France, and I think we have a bright future ahead of us.
Well, and I believe when I heard you, well, bashing is maybe a rich problem, but well, for your countries, well, we has said, Jean-Baptiste, well, your landscape is still fragmented, but well, in geopolitics problems, well, the competition is in your country, in your continent. Well, when we talk about that, is it positive or is it negative, the competition you are just in front of, maybe because you need alliance? It's so important for you, alliance, but we, ooh.
If you're talking about how alliances can help overcome some geopolitical situations, of course, it's one of the tools that we have been working on, and we as Royal Maroc, we are a member of One World Alliance with British Airways, Iberia, Japan Airlines, Qantas, Qatar. I mean, all those big names. But this is not the only tool. I think one of the most efficient tool is to have the right agreements and air services agreements with many countries, as many as possible. And we have been for the last 25 years following an important strategy that our country and our king has put in place, which is connecting the continent in a very efficient way in order to drive South-South development. We should not be waiting for the northern countries, for Europe, to help us to get developed. We need to develop ourselves, and we have all the means and capabilities to do this. So during the last 25 years, we have invested a lot, opened lots of routes, thanks to air service agreements. We're talking now about open skies in Africa, and this will be a milestone that is very important. Us as an airline, we have just launched a program to move from a 50 plus aircraft airline to 200 in the next 10 years. We will announce a big order in the upcoming weeks. This is not fancy. This is not to say, well, we have 200 planes. This is because there's a market, there's a need. And the African diasporas, the African customers need to travel. You need to take them wherever they want to travel. There's something that is really important, is COVID has shown us something. You can't stop people from traveling. This is the way for them to show their freedom. The freedom of traveling is an important thing. And we as airlines, we try to provide this with the right product.
And I believe for India, air mobility is so important.
I think I'm of the strong opinion that no country now can work in isolation. I think collaboration is the need of the hour and is a necessity for everyone. I mean, just look at our civil aviation market in India. It is like $61 billion and growing. $61 billion contribution to the GDP directly and indirectly. We create close to around 8 million jobs directly and indirectly. Who wouldn't want to be a part of this? Both domestically as well as internationally. And there's so much we can learn through collaborations. There's so much we can learn through experiences from other nations. Like we are such a big nation geographically as well. I mean, I think there is things that we can learn from the African subcontinent, we can learn from the European Union countries, and from the Americas, and ensure that we have our own ecosystem as well. Right now, more than 75% of everything that we have is indigenous. And if we are able to learn from other ecosystems and ensure that we will be able to do things ourselves, the costs will come down, more people will travel. Last year, 375 million people traveled domestically. That's a huge number. and it's just increasing every year. And if we are able to have, like you rightly pointed out, more affordable travel with safety, with everything in place, I don't. We will have close to around 500 million people flying by the end of this financial year. So I think collaborations are important. I don't think isolation is the way ahead.
When we speak about alliance, is well, in India and after in Nigeria, well, is step by step, or you need a global alliance?
Yes. We actually everybody needs alliance, you know, in order to grow, meet that economy of scale that we need. You see, African unions came up with Agenda 62, where they come up with African continental free trade area, which is pulling lots of economy. So most boundaries, because the boundary we put in all these countries cause a lot of problems, so that you don't have economy of scale for most airlines to thrive. Because I think years ago, you see, Africa started with every nation having their own airlines, except actually when some Francophone Africans came together and have Air Afrique. That's actually the first alliance we saw in Africa. We took that forward to about 2000. We have what we call Yamoussoukro Declaration, which is a way to at least come up with an open sky policy. But the implementation of that was very difficult, and I think because of the way it was structured, later on we came up with what we call now Single African Air Transport Market, which I believe that actually learned from the mistakes of all the other alliances in the past, and see whether this one can actually be put in a place where it's practicable. So I think we all need alliances, and but the question is, there was, when the SATAM was actually signed, I think Nigeria was a little bit suspicious signing that, because they think they are going to give Ethiopian Airlines a lot of power, and also Royal Air Maroc to come to Nigeria and dominate the market. So that suspicion is being addressed. Intergovernmental systems are addressing that suspicion. But to answer your question and close on that is, yes, it is a way to go, because the economy of scale is required. If you look today, because we said which comes first, is it traffic or frequency? So when you look at the available seats on every aircraft, like the chairman of Royal Air Maroc can tell us, you see you don't have available seats. Kilometers in Africa is very low compared to what you get in other places like India, even in Europe. And the question is, why is that? Because you see, you have a population that is not, when it comes about the purchasing power, is low. But that is not, it's changing. That is why Africa is the next frontier, because you see the demography, which is the young population, and everybody also understands. Some of them started flying early enough because we have lots of diaspora population. So this is going to change very soon. So I believe that Africa is the next frontier in terms of air transport, and if anybody wants to invest, that's the best way to look at. Thank you.
Well, everyone, well, they believe in your target. But, well, as say, geopolitics, is it a war versus your target? Jean-Baptiste, maybe you can answer, because, well, yeah, yesterday and this evening, we know that Israel attacked, and Russia versus Ukraine, many wars are here near your countries, and the wall is here, and how we can make the takeoff, the air transport, versus this problem?
I think that's a very good question, because what we saw like in the last 40 years is that we develop air traffic mostly, let's say, North America and Europe, but it's only a small market if you compare to the markets we were mentioning. I mean, Europe is like 500 million people with a fraction traveling. America, maybe 400 million, including Canada, and traveling mostly domestically. So there are tiny markets compared to the revolution that is ahead of us. So that's number one. Number two is, you're right to say that we developed air transport in a world where relatively there was peace. And out of cooperation, confrontation, collaboration was mainly the word through IATA and many other alliances and many other features. Now we have the biggest demographic revolution of air transport ahead of us in the countries we mentioned, in a world where confrontation and political fragmentation is getting real, really real. You take operational impact, like airspace is available. Look at flight radar today. I mean, you see that the whole Middle East is divided. And it's happening on a regular basis now. The China-US trade war, the same. Available routes for French carriers to go to Asia now. You add maybe 2 hours to go to Tokyo from Paris. And it's been 2 years this way. So we are facing, I think, at worldwide level, the ability and I think the necessity to develop air transport safely. And I think safety will be a big issue. It's not something we've done in the past. With a world that appears to be quite consistently in conflict. So that would mean, I think, all international organization alliances at regional level, they would be very, very important in the foreseeable future.
Mr. Eric, can I have the point of view?
About geopolitical?
Yeah.
Well, look, yes, wars are happening maybe more frequently than in the past. And of course, this is not good for any business and not good for our business. But there's something that is even more vicious than wars today. Some governments use a tool that have never been used in the past, which is block the airspace. And those tools, the last time that they have been used was during World War II. Today, without a war, you can find some countries that block the airspace for years. Does it affect an airline economically? The answer is no. Why? Simply because you have capacity. If you can't put it on that country, you can put it in another country, another market. So we will drive business anyway. The problem is that you just block the freedom of traveling of people. And that does make sense. If there's a war, it's a matter of security. And that makes sense that you can't let people travel. But if there's no conflict, it doesn't make sense to block people from traveling. This freedom of traveling is key.
And Mr. Kaji, you can't close your eyes.
Well, there's a saying that goes, just because you're not interested in politics, that does not mean politics is not interested in you. So, I mean, this is something that we have been facing from time immemorial, I mean, for transport. So whether it's road transport or sea navigation or air. So whenever there have been conflicts, whenever civilizations have fought, countries have fought, the first thing that gets blocked are trade routes. So whether it's land, air, or sea. And it's, I mean, nobody likes a conflict. And I think, like I said earlier, we are living in a global village now. We are no more, we are not isolated anymore. Even China needs allies, even America needs allies. I mean, forget developing countries. Even the developed countries need this. And this is just not going to help anyone in the long run. So if, I mean, unfortunately, we are unwilling to learn from history. There is so much it has taught us, whether it's the 2 world wars or even going beyond that, between the wars between civilizations. But unfortunately, we don't seem to have learned lessons as politicians or as men. So I think going forward, this is going to be there as long as we are going to fight over supremacy, as long as we are trying to ensure that we as a civilization remain the wealthiest, not the best in terms of contributing back to humanity. And that's the, that's the my take on that. Because until and unless we are going to ensure that, yes, there are countries that need what we have, that can benefit from our knowledge, that can benefit from our trade, and we can trade with them, and vice versa. But I don't see that happening very often. I think as time is progressing, we are getting more narrow-minded.
As Mr. de la Palisse, a very, very naive man in France, said, well, peace is better for the growth of air transport, Mr.
Yes, I think what we are addressing is the peacetime blockage instead of if it's war. Obviously, for the aircraft and the passenger safety is good to avoid a war zone, but then not when in time of peace. Like we witnessed, I think, was it last year in West Africa, where just because a new government was in place and it blocked its country airspace, and that cost us a lot. Even me, when you're traveling to Europe, a journey of 6 hours, you get like 8 hours. I think it's still happening now. You know, sometimes when you like follow Air France coming out of Abuja, you find out that the flight time is not what it used to be. So I think the question would be, what you know, there are lots of problems that has been solved over the years when it comes to civil aviation and common interest. Like, you know, we had what we call a Cape Town Convention, I think in the, was it 2000 or earlier than that, 1998. And actually the Cape Town Convention Treaty addressed movable assets in Africa, because we had an impediment that people don't give aircraft to countries in Africa on lease. And actually it was at that Cape Town Convention that was resolved. And I think ICAO need to do more too, because you know, when it comes to all this blocking airspace, you know, what I call protectionism, I don't know what actually people are protecting when we build all these boundaries. And I think that's why the world have organization like ICAO. I know IATA cannot handle that, because this has to do with government and other, you know, intergovernmental relationship. And I think that's actually what, you know, thank you.
Well, the question now is, what do you expect from the Western sector, Western countries, industrial, motorist, engineers, what you need at first? Mr. Hadou, maybe?
On which subject?
Well, for the growing of the air transport, because maybe it's more important for you to have airport, to have the air traffic management, to have and maybe safety. We spoke about safety. Maybe more and more safety in the sky, and for the better way of your airline.
Of course, we need infrastructure, and we are currently developing lots of infrastructures. I think Morocco is not doesn't have billions of passengers, just 40 million inhabitants. But I think we have on the continent the biggest number of airports, and we will still invest in airports to increase connectivity. Of course, having safer planes.
In Morocco, which is the most important airport now?
Casablanca,
the
hub.
Right.
And we will, in the next 4 years, triple the capacity to reach 40 million passengers in the hub. So lots of investments. We need planes. We need green planes with the right engines. Lots of investments. But this is something that would not help us only. It helps the whole world. I mean, this is, to me, a milestone that has to be achieved.
I believe it's the same thing for India.
Well, I think we are slightly ahead of the curve there. And while we are fairly well connected, but what we would require is to get to the next stage is, I think, to create an ecosystem that's similar to what's in the West. So we look forward for collaborations in skilling. We look forward for collaboration in creating incubators and accelerators. We look forward for creating joint innovations, get to the next level of manufacturing in aviation, in aerospace and space, defense and defense electronics. We are a much more mature ecosystem than my colleagues from Africa, and I think we are ready for the next big leap. And I think that's where we are headed. I mean, besides civil aviation, if you look at our markets of defense, just last year we signed close to around $2.1 trillion worth of military contracts. And defense electronics, we are the hub. My state manufactures close to around 65% of all the helicopters and airplanes that are here. In fact, we manufacture more British jets than the British do in UK. So we are a much more this thing. We put the Chandrayaan. We put
well, in 20 years, India, 20 or 30 years, India will so impressive.
Absolutely. So I just heard the advertisement that was playing before, and they were saying that they've tied up with the ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization. So now we are looking at building things from India for the world. So building things locally that work globally. So we had a center of excellence earlier in aerospace, which was run by the SU. And we had a tie-up with Toulouse as well for space tech. So I think there is a lot of collaborations that can be worked around to ensure that we deliver the most sustainable technology and manufacturing on scale.
In Nigeria, airport, air traffic management, and
well, it all boils down to capital. So both the airport and the air traffic management equipment requires capital. We say aviation is capital intensive, but I also say it's also skill intensive, because right now, if you come to Nigeria, when I actually operated a helicopter charter business a while ago, some 3 years ago, most of my both flight crew and engineering crew are from Canada, because what we had is Bell helicopters, and those helicopters, you don't really get the skills are easily available in Nigeria. So that's capital and skill, and also regulatory policy. Most times we actually battling that to make sure that the government gets it right, because you don't throw away the baby with the bathwater. Yes, we want aviation to be safe, but at the same time also, who is better to make sure that his aircraft is safe? Is the operator, not the regulator. So that's what we actually try to communicate to government. And also, we do say we need to move from talking and also doing. That is actually one of the things, some of the things we need to move the air transport and aviation business forward.
Maybe for your countries or your continent, when maybe it's too early to speak about e-mobility, eVTOL, well, drones. Maybe it's too early.
No, not at all.
Not really?
Absolutely not. I mean, we recently spoke about a conflict, and well, we had effective use of drones, and our ecosystem, like I said, is mature, and I think whether it's UAV, drone, and space manufacturing, SMEs, MSMEs, they're all equipped to do that now. And of course, we are the 4th largest technology cluster in the world, and we are building for sorry?
That's the way of my question, because, well, we know.
Yeah, so, yeah, we are and just yesterday in Viva Technology in France, we were rated as the 14th best ecosystem for innovations in the world. So, yeah, so I think whether it's manufacturing, whether it's building applications, whether it is building applications for upstream space, downstream space, I think we are in it already. In fact, our capabilities is something that is highly sought after in the world.
Jean-Baptiste, well, Mr. Hedberg said, well, green, clean, sky blue, well, it's so important. SAF is here, and I believe, fourth, you say you have the same word of the green sky and the blue sky.
I'm joining you. Two questions. You say, what does the West expect, or what do you expect from the West? What does the West expect from the West? I think what I expect from the West is to stop having this stupid internal political debate regarding aviation bashing in France. Because when you talk about that, you don't talk about what's essential. And there's many things that Europe can do, many things that our industry can provide. And you mentioned decarbonization, of course. That's a huge opportunity for us, for aircraft and engine OEM, French or European related, to actually drive that race. That's an opportunity, because at the end of the day, if you think long term, 50 years, 60 years, it will happen. And there will be some dominant player. And there are new emerging competitors. I mean, look at what China is doing. I mean, of course, India will be doing the same. I think my only advice to Westerners is actually to travel and to understand, what people are doing, how the world is changing. And the world is changing really, really fast. We mentioned demography, but also the way elite thinks and act. And if the Europeans cease to have this sort of general political debate and acknowledge how the world is changing, I think they will better contribute, including for decarbonization, understanding the needs and organizing in a win-win situationship or organization. So I think that's what I hope. And I think it is real now. We are doing, I see Michel Duberry here, we are working on SAF, and we are running a R&D program in Bordeaux, which I think is the first of the world to do that. So there are many things we can contribute as Europeans: human capital, intellectual capital, a very, very strong industrial excellence, and for the greater and for the better of everyone here.
And together, that's important, because et c'est un peu, d'ailleurs, c'est bientôt la fin de cette table ronde. Je vais me permettre de reparler en français. Merci à vous tous, thank you so much. Merci à vous d'être venus du Maroc, d'Inde, du Nigeria, de pas très loin d'ici, Jean-Baptiste. En vous remerciant à toute l'assistance d'avoir participé à cette table ronde. Et puis, bien sûr, un prochain rendez-vous lundi, je crois, près de Paris. On appelle ça le Paris Air Show. Moi, je l'appelle encore le Salon du Bourget et de l'Espace. Merci à tous. À bientôt.
Bonjour à toutes et à tous. On va accueillir Pierre-Eric, qui est le président de l'entreprise X721. On a toujours eu de plaisir à accueillir les startups, d'autant plus qu'elles sont innovantes. Et Pierre-Eric va vous présenter un produit, je dirais, qui va étonner plus d'un. Et la première question, donc, Pierre-Eric, c'est un peu d'avoir votre fiche signalétique de la société X721. Qui êtes-vous vraiment?
Alors, bonjour Michel, bonjour à tous. X721 est une société qui a été créée en avril 2014, qui est basée à Dubaï, et en fait qui, depuis maintenant plus de 10 ans, essaye de développer cette machine qu'on a baptisée Heliblade, qui est un drone à faces multiples, mais dont une des caractéristiques est de pouvoir voler longtemps, très longtemps, ou à très haute altitude. Nous sommes actuellement une dizaine de personnes qui travaillons sur ce projet. C'est un projet alors qui est tout à fait nouveau, parce que c'est ni un avion ni un hélicoptère. Donc pour développer un engin comme ça, vous partez d'une feuille blanche. Vous pouvez taper sur ChatGPT comment faire voler une machine comme ça. La réponse est je ne sais pas. Et donc on a la chance d'avoir des ingénieurs qui pensent un peu, comme on dit, hors de la boîte. Je pense à des gens qui sont dans la salle, ou une société qui est par exemple à Saint-Étienne, avec qui on développe le pilote automatique, qui est très particulier sur cette machine. Et voilà. Et aujourd'hui, donc, pour la première fois, donc, on annonce l'existence de ce produit, qui semble être en fait dans l'air du temps, parce que il vient combler une sorte de vide entre le spatial et
c'est vrai qu'on parle beaucoup aujourd'hui de la THA, la fameuse très haute altitude, et donc c'est dans cet espace-là que Heliblade va évoluer dans la stratosphère, si j'ai bien compris.
Absolument. Alors, on a en fait on a plusieurs produits qui vont voler à différentes altitudes, depuis le niveau troposphère jusqu'à la stratosphère, et même éventuellement, on a une gamme de produits qui peuvent voler sur d'autres planètes, sur Mars par exemple, puisque l'atmosphère de Mars est assez proche de celle de notre stratosphère. Et on a donc plusieurs types de véhicules. Alors, si vous m'autorisez, Michel, je vais peut-être, puisqu'on parle un peu d'innovation, expliquer un peu de quoi il s'agit.
Justement, c'est pourquoi faire cette innovation.
Alors, l'idée, si vous voulez, c'est de... je vous demande un peu de concentration technique, si j'ose dire. Dans la stratosphère, chaque gramme et chaque watt est important. Et donc l'idée, si vous voulez, c'est de alléger au maximum et rendre au plus performant possible des engins qui peuvent voler. Et alors, je vais faire un peu appel à votre imagination. Imaginez une aile d'avion. Elle a deux fonctions principales. Une première fonction qui consiste à fournir de la portance, mais aussi une deuxième fonction qui consiste à résister aux différentes perturbations, des rafales de vent, et des choses comme ça. Et en fait, l'idée de Heliblade, c'est de s'affranchir de la deuxième fonction, ou plutôt, pour être plus précis, de la laisser faire, non pas avec du carbone et de la structure, mais avec une force centrifuge. C'est-à-dire que si on fait tourner une aile autour d'un fil, avec la force centrifuge, elle va reprendre naturellement sa position horizontale. Et si on relie donc deux ailes l'une en face de l'autre, alors vous pouvez peut-être...
Alors justement, vous nous avez donné une vidéo, on va la présenter, et pour les sceptiques, vous allez voir que ça marche. Si vous pouvez envoyer la vidéo.
Donc vous allez voir, donc là il y a une vidéo avec donc un objet qui a trois pales, un Heliblade qui a trois pales, et les trois pales vont tourner les unes autour des autres, et c'est juste par la force centrifuge que ces ailes elles conservent une forme horizontale, et donc l'engin vole tout simplement grâce à ces forces centrifuges et un pilote automatique qui va compenser toutes les déformations qui peuvent avoir lieu. Mais disons que ces ailes n'ont absolument plus de structure interne, donc elles sont beaucoup plus légères. Et comme elles sont beaucoup plus légères, elles volent beaucoup moins vite ou de manière beaucoup plus efficace par rapport aux engins qu'on voit aujourd'hui. Donc c'est un peu, si vous voulez, la version 2.0 des drones stratosphériques qu'on peut voir aujourd'hui se développer.
Alors c'est super intéressant. Et là, on a envie de savoir maintenant quand vous allez voler pour la première fois.
Alors, nous finissons actuellement la phase R&D, donc la phase Proof of Concept, excusez-moi de l'anglais. C'est-à-dire qu'on a deux activités principales. Une activité qui consiste à démontrer que physiquement, les ailes, quand elles tournent, restent dans la position qu'on souhaite, ne se déforment pas et qu'on arrive à contrôler ça. Et toute une partie de notre activité qui va être de développer un pilote automatique, parce que, comme vous avez pu le voir sur l'image, l'Heliblade n'a ni avant ni arrière, par exemple. Donc on a dû tout réinventer avec cette société à Saint-Étienne qui s'appelle Technologique, et sur lequel donc, nous finissons actuellement les travaux. Donc le pilote fonctionne, il a déjà volé sur des petites machines. Et ce qui va se passer, pour répondre à votre question, en début 2026, premier trimestre 2026, on va donc assembler les travaux qu'on a fait au niveau structurel et les tests qu'on a fait au niveau structurel avec le pilote automatique, mettre ça sur une machine et commencer à lui faire des vols à basse altitude et au fur et à mesure de monter de plus en plus haut vers la stratosphère.
Et vous allez atteindre la stratosphère quoi, dans l'année 2026 ou un peu plus tard?
Alors, j'aimerais que ce soit en 2026. Je vais dire si tout le monde y met du sien, parce qu'on va rentrer dans une phase où voler au niveau du sol reste finalement assez simple, au niveau par exemple administration, au niveau de coordination avec les autorités. Mais quand on va commencer à monter, la coordination avec le trafic aérien, ça va devenir un peu plus juridique, si j'ose dire. Actuellement, on cherche aussi un site pour faire ces tests. Donc un site qui soit avec une météo relativement calme et sans interférer avec le trafic aérien. Donc en ce qui concerne la machine, elle est quasiment finie. Elle a commencé l'assemblage, on teste les différents équipements et on est en train de travailler aussi à qualifier le système qui va lancer ces héliblades et les rattraper en vol.
Alors, vous êtes basé à Dubaï, donc j'imagine que les Émirats arabes unis vous connaissent bien déjà. Est-ce qu'ils vous financent justement et ça pourrait être l'espace que vous cherchez pour votre vol inaugural?
Alors la réponse est non, ils ne connaissent pas parce que c'est aujourd'hui qu'on sort du bois pour la première fois. On a des rendez-vous effectivement lors du forum et lors du Paris Air Show bientôt avec des gens qui ont manifesté déjà un certain intérêt pour ce véhicule. Mais je pense qu'effectivement les Émirats, étant donné leur appétence pour tout ce qui est risque, enfin, pas risque, mais on va dire les produits un peu novateurs.
Ils sont addicts à la technologie.
Voilà, la technologie. Je pense qu'on a des bonnes conversations qui vont arriver avec les Émirats. Oui.
Et alors, quel marché vous visez?
Alors, le marché, bon, il y a le marché, on va dire les capacités de l'héliblade, c'est avant tout, pour commencer, l'observation de la Terre, avec tout ce qu'on peut faire un peu différemment de ce que fait un satellite. Parce que, par exemple, l'héliblade va rester de manière permanente au-dessus d'une ville ou d'une zone qu'on veut regarder. Donc, contrairement au satellite qui va devoir revenir toutes les heures et demie, l'héliblade peut rester à sa position géostationnaire en permanence.
Il y aura un très fort taux de revisite.
En fait, on peut regarder la Terre en permanence, en fait, avec un héliblade, de là où il se trouve. Non seulement on peut le faire en permanence, mais le faisant beaucoup plus bas qu'un satellite. Nous, on vole à 20 km. Un satellite vole souvent 300, 400 km. On a donc une précision sur les images qui peut être 2 à 3, voire 4 fois supérieure à ce que fait un satellite. Donc, on sait déjà que ça va intéresser beaucoup de monde. Mais je voulais rajouter à ça le fait qu'il y a certainement des marchés nouveaux qui n'existent pas aujourd'hui, parce qu'aujourd'hui, peu de personnes vont voler dans la stratosphère. Et ces marchés, en fait, l'héliblade va faire une sorte de pont, va créer un pont entre le spatial et la troposphère. Et je suis persuadé, on a déjà des contacts avec des clients ou des prospects pour inventer des missions tout à fait novatrices.
Justement, au niveau des missions, donc la charge utile, vous pouvez emporter de quel ordre d'idée une charge utile, je ne sais pas, de 10, 20, 50 kilos. Et est-ce que vous avez diversifié cette charge utile qui peut être du télécom, de la guerre électronique, de l'observation?
Alors, réponse à votre première question, ça va essentiellement dépendre de la taille de l'engin. C'est-à-dire que si on se limite à un engin, on va dire de 35 mètres d'envergure, on va pouvoir porter une charge de 5 à 10 kg. On peut imaginer de porter plus, mais après, ça peut faire des engins qui vont faire 100 mètres, 200 mètres. Bon, peut-être un jour, mais on n'est pas là aujourd'hui. Et en ce qui concerne les missions, alors, on a décidé avant tout se préoccuper des missions d'observation pour une raison purement technique, c'est qu'embarquer une caméra et descendre des images depuis un drone stratosphérique, c'est finalement relativement simple. Il y a des produits existants. On peut communiquer par satellite ou par GSM pour descendre les images. Et donc on va faire certainement des premières missions de démonstration avec des missions d'observation.
Et l'héliblade qui va rester dans la stratosphère, il a une durée de vol de quel ordre?
Alors en théorie, il n'y a pas vraiment de limite parce qu'il va donc il fonctionne exclusivement...
C'est un vol infini?
Alors pas tout à fait, ce serait mon rêve, mais En fait, il va donc charger ses batteries par des panneaux solaires dans la journée, continuer à voler la nuit grâce à des batteries. Et en fait, on est aujourd'hui limité principalement par la capacité des batteries à cycler des charges et des charges, à se charger, se décharger. Les batteries qui sont malheureusement encore relativement représentent une innovation importante, sont assez sensibles à ces nombres de charges et de décharges. Et c'est ce qui fait aujourd'hui la limite de la durée du vol.
Alors aujourd'hui, vous dévoilez, donc depuis 2014, vous avez travaillé en secret, si j'ai bien compris. Aujourd'hui, donc vous dévoilez, vous avez besoin de financement, de compétences, vous avez besoin de quoi?
Alors, effectivement, en fait, la raison pour laquelle on a décidé d'annoncer aujourd'hui notre invention, c'est que arrivant à la fin de notre phase de R&D, on a besoin de compétences avant tout, compétences dans différents domaines techniques, par exemple, pour améliorer maintenant l'aérodynamique, la partie électrique, la partie thermique à bord de notre engin, mais aussi des compétences ou des ressources, comme par exemple des sites de test, des compétences dans le domaine juridique, j'en ai parlé tout à l'heure, avec par exemple tout ce qui va être relation avec les autorités, tout ce qui va consister à certifier cet engin. Donc, on est, nous, plutôt une société plutôt technique aujourd'hui, et on cherche donc des partenaires industriels qui savent produire, ou qui savent améliorer, ou qui savent coordonner avec les autorités, ou qui ont des sites de test.
En termes de financement, vous cherchez une levée de fonds ou pas?
Alors, jusqu'à présent, en fait, X721 a été financé uniquement avec des fonds propres. Mais on est dans une phase où, effectivement, avec l'apport de toutes ces compétences, on regarde avant tout la partie géographique de notre implantation, parce qu'on va essayer de faire des usines de fabrication là où on peut lancer les engins, à savoir dans des lieux plutôt avec une météo favorable, je dirais avec aussi un peu d'interférence avec le trafic aérien, et j'ajouterais, pour ajouter un peu d'insolence, une zone avec faible niveau de bureaucratie. Voilà. Donc on cherche en fait actuellement...
Donc c'est pas en France.
Alors non, c'est faux, parce qu'en fait on note que quand même il y a des efforts, mais ça fait partie des discussions qu'on va avoir avec les autorités françaises, notamment sur l'emploi de sites, par exemple des sites qui sont des sites militaires désaffectés ou des choses comme ça. Donc on a quand même des réunions intéressantes, et je reste assez confiant quand même. En tout cas, en Europe, c'est sûr. En France, c'est en cours, et j'espère qu'on pourra vous annoncer des choses prochainement.
Bah, ce sera avec plaisir. Merci Pierre-Eric. Merci, et surtout bon vol pour les Blade, en espérant que cette belle aventure aille jusqu'au bout. Merci à vous.
Je vous remercie beaucoup.
good morning again. I'm Stefan Berensky. I'm the chief editor of the Aérospatiale magazine, and I've been covering space for 3 decades now. And well, don't start me on mini launchers, please, because 30 years ago I was working for a famous consultant agency in Europe. The name is in it, regarding small launchers. Because it was a time when there were, things called constellations, Iridium, Global Star. And so, we all need to have small launchers for small satellites. We reviewed dozens and dozens of projects, and only one of them made it. It was Eurocot, and only because ESA had the right payload to put on it. So, well, when I saw constellations coming back, and many launchers coming back, was quite skeptical, let's say, well. And now is the time when things seems to become serious, because, and it was not a pun to a consultant that is not there, things are becoming serious because we start talking about money for them. So it's the objective of this roundtable. And to discuss the current situation in Europe, at least, we have a wonderful panel. We could have done it in Spanish, actually. We will do it in bad English, sorry. So I'm really happy to have next to me Lucia Linares, and since I don't have the right pedigree, what is your current position?
Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Lucia Linares. I head strategy and institutional launches at the Directorate of Space Transportation in ESA. I'm replacing today Tony, the Director of Space Transportation.
Thank you. We have Miguel Bello Mora, Chairman of the Board at Orbex, which is quite strange to have a Spaniard for a Scottish company that was born in Denmark. Well, okay. We have Raoul Verdoux, co-founder and Chief Business Development Officer at PLD Space. And we are lucky, because it's not what was written here, but we have Johan Laura, who is the CEO of Maya Space. Well, so there is this big issue we are not allowed to talk about, but we will try to tap dance around. The European Launcher Challenge has begun. So please tell us what is going on.
Yes, thank you. So first, maybe to say, you were introducing the panel saying that money is starting to come in the round. But before the European Launcher Challenge, we had the Boost program at ESA. And this was a program that was started in 2019 because indeed we were starting to see there was an appetite from companies in Europe to develop on their own right launch services, and this was a good thing. And we wanted to have also fostering private investment. So I have to say this was the beginning, Boost. The Boost program is ongoing. We have committed more than 165 million on Boost 1 to co-fund viable companies in the launch service space transportation business. Now with the European Launcher Challenge, we are tuning up in Europe. This was a decision that was taken in Sevilla in November, again in Spain. And what is the European Launcher Challenge? The European Launcher Challenge is a competition among European launch services on the basis of technical maturity, commercial viability, also how these companies with their proposals can respond to European institutional needs. We want to foster diversity in the market of European launch services in Europe. We've had a model for the last 45 years. It was a successful one, but things are changing. We want to accompany this change. We are in a full transition. We cannot talk about this in full, but I'm allowed to answer some questions because the evaluation in ESA is now ongoing. It's been ongoing since the submission took place of all the bids that we received, and therefore I cannot reveal anything linked to these proceedings. Otherwise, I will answer any question.
Even the number of answers?
we've had a lot of interest coming, and we are happy to see that the companies that we had seen, that we know, have made their bids. I will not go into how many exactly, but there's been a lot of interest.
Oh, thank you. Miguel, well, I've been following Orbex for a while, and it's been quite difficult because you are not really talkative. You're one of the most discreet of the projects in Europe. So please enlighten us with what is going on right now with Orbex and the Prime Launcher.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for La Tribune for inviting me to this event. Stefan, that's good that you make me this question because we have been a little bit silent. We are very well advanced in the development. If we do a quick check, all our avionics is finished and ready. Computers are already designed, manufactured, and waiting for launch. All the communication system is ready, antenna ground segment is placed. The guided navigation and control is finished. We did the hardware in the loop, which is the last test before flight. Structure, we did big improvement. There are two technologies which are key technology. One is coaxial tanking. We have a patent, and we do a full-scale, full test, successfully demonstrated that coaxial tanking is going to work. And we have also a big pressure within carbon fiber, a big pressure vessel with 900 bar and cryogenic. This is not a normal technology. We tested it. Then structure is also well in place. The only place that we need further work is propulsion at the testing level. We want to qualify the engine. We have 2 engines for the first and second stage. We are now running, we're going to run more than 100 hot fires to full qualify the engines. But we hope that maybe some optimization design coming up to the test, but this is where we are now heavily working. And the other thing that we were doing was the spaceport. The spaceport in Sutherland, our own spaceport, has been stopped, has been paused, because we want to concentrate into the launcher. It's not because we do not want to abandon Sutherland. We're going to go to Saxford, but it's a maximum number of launches. We can do 10. In our business plan, we want to do more than 10. We will resume Sutherland as far as we reach the limit of launches that we can do there. In summary, all subsystems are ready. We need to work basically in propulsion testing and setting up the Saxford spaceport, which is nearly done. We expect to launch early next year.
Early next year. Mark it in my calendar. Raoul, you're actually the only one on this panel to have launched anything.
Yes.
Quite crudely. Well, it was 20 months ago. So what has been done since?
Yes, so in 2 years we developed an orbital class vehicle. So and we multiply by 10 our workshop capabilities. Now we have a factory that we are capable to deliver 6 Mira 5 per year. With reusability, we can achieve a cadence of 12 launcher per year. And now we are purchasing the land for our large facility to manufacture Miranex. So as you know, PLD Space is the pioneer. In Europe, we were the first one to create a company, to test an engine, to test a system-level booster technologies. We launched Mira 1 as a booster demonstration and re-entry demonstration. We were the first one to propose a reusable rocket in Europe. And we will be the first one to launch something into orbit because our approach to enter into the market is super conservative. We don't want to invent and to have patents. We want just to be reliable and fully commercial vision there. So today we are by far the largest infrastructure from the private sector to test an engine. We develop an engine of 190 kilonewtons. That it's a lot from the private sector. We have just 5 clusters because everything is prepared to develop Mira Next. Because today our engineering workforce is focused in Mira Next because Mira 5 is done. We are completing the acceptance and qualification testing of all those systems to have the first unit ready in December. Also very good news here in France. So we will start the construction of our launch pad in Kourou. That is the real European spaceport. So with a lot of heritage, we want to be, let me say, you know, I hate the new and old space, so we are competitive. So so that's our point today. So super happy.
Well, with the Mira Next, we are going beyond the mini launcher topic.
True.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, Science Foundation. So we want a launch service provider, starting small, like engines, Mira 1, Mira 5, because we don't want to put you know, a technological challenge in front of us that we are not capable to complete. We saw so many failures, like in Europe, FAA, ISAR Aerospace, in US, Firefly, Relativity, ABL, Vector, Virgin Orbit. There are so many that they put the rocket on the pad and they fail. And we were the unique that we put the rocket on the path and we launched successfully and we followed the trajectory. And we are repeating that successful history with Mira One. This is our methodology that is completely ready to offer commercial launch opportunity and for sure institutional let me say service procurement if our institution they want to use our launch vehicles. So there is a lot of work to be done for sure. So it's we are starting. No, I love to say that we were 15 years starting, and I saw so many others like underestimating how hard it is to put everything together and follow the trajectory. And I think we are the most, let me say, promising player at global level today.
Well, Johan, with Maya Space, you are quite a unique player in the field because you're the only one to be 100% owned by, let's say, a large company, a much larger player in the field, Ariane Group. How do you make sure that you are not hidden in their shadow?
So we are forced to work differently from Ariane Group. So it's true that we are a 100% subsidiary of Ariane Group, but we operate in an autonomous manner. It's not by choice, it's a necessity because we have very ambitious objectives, as you probably know, because we want to divide by 2 the development time compared to what we have seen in Europe for rocket development, but also elsewhere in the world. And we want to divide the costs by a factor of 3. Compared to standards. We cannot reach those objectives if we do not change fundamentally our way of working. So we are different, fundamentally different in our way of working from Ariane Group, but we are also different from the other players for a certain number of reasons. The first one is that we are convinced that to go fast and to reduce costs, we need to be pragmatic and in particular not to reinvent the wheel, not to start everything from a blank page. And as an example, we have made the strategic choice to buy engines from Ariane Group, and it is the Prometheus engine that has been developed by Ariane Group in the frame of a contract with ESA. By the way, this is a contract that started much earlier than the company creation, because we quickly reached the conclusion that if we launched ourselves the development of a rocket engine of the size of the Prometheus engine, then there would be no chance that we reach the launch pad in a matter of 5 years, by end of 2026, as is our objective. And the second difference comes is linked to your introduction. We are convinced, we are very skeptical, as you are, with the business model of micro launchers, because we are in an industry where scale matters. What matters in the end for a customer is the price it will pay, and in particular the price it will pay for the size, for the mass of the satellite it will have to launch. And we are in an industry where when you divide the performance of your launcher by a factor of 2, you do not divide the cost by a factor of 2, meaning that you structurally increase the cost per kilogram, and so the price per kilogram at which you can launch your service. So if you want to have a chance to be competitive in that market, you need to reach at least a certain launch mass capability to be able to compete with heavy launchers, with whom micro launchers will compete at least for a part, and a significant part of the market. So what differentiates us from most of the other players is that the first version of our rocket already will already have a capability of up to 4 tons in inclined orbit, which is still much smaller than what Ariane 6 can do, but which is significantly higher than what most of the others will propose, at least for the first version of their launcher.
Maybe just one point, because it comes back also in the interventions of my colleagues, launch service providers, and it was in your question on mini launchers. I come back on the European Launcher Challenge to say that with Boost, we saw that all the companies, of course, are starting small, and it's normal, but they have an ambition to grow and to go into higher performance. And this is a good thing from the institutional perspective, because, as I was saying, we want perspective, we want diversity, we want diversification of services, and hence the European Launcher Challenge is a bit about procuring, of course, services for missions of ESA, but it's also a lot about procuring services for demonstrated upgrading capacities. So initial capacity is out of the scope of the European Launcher Challenge. The companies will have to demonstrate that as either a condition to place a contract for a launch service, or as a go, no-go criteria for a capacity demonstration. But please keep in mind, we've learned that from the Boost experience. There is an appetite, and we as institutions want these companies to grow in performance, upgrade their capacities. This is a lot, the European Launcher Challenge. Thank you.
Well, one of the heavy criticisms I got many times for European small launchers, it's that they were not European. Let's say PLD is presented as Spanish, Maya is presented as French, although it's French-German in some ways. Well, you are the strange one because you're presented as British or Scottish, while I think you have Danish and German roots as well. So maybe you're the only one that, well, we have plenty of German launchers, and some of them are even not German, but Bavarian. So is the European Launcher Challenge a chance to Europeanize, well, broaden the footprint of each one, let's say?
What I can say is that most of them are already having a footprint in several countries. Certainly the mark of the service level is very national, and it's normal. So first thing as an answer is that the footprint is spread European for most of these candidates. And second is, I am intimately convinced that as they grow higher in performance, in ambition, there will be a need to further Europeanize. But I think they can talk for their own examples. But of these two, I think they're valid points that have to be stressed.
Well, what you said is right. Orbis was born in Denmark. The founder are Danish. We moved then to UK before Brexit happened, but there is all the propulsion is done in Denmark, in Copenhagen. All the testing is in Copenhagen. But there is an important shareholder. One of the largest shareholders is Spanish, is Deimos, which is now Indra. They do all the guidance, navigation, and control. But we have subcontractor in Portugal, in France, in Germany. But for the ELC, we have increased our European side. Then we have organized industry days for our proposal in Czech Republic, in Belgium, in Switzerland, in many countries, so that we have sent dozens of RFPs to get a supply chain competitive. And then we have now, I think, 10 countries. We have just UK as headquartered, but Denmark, Portugal, Spain, France, Germany, all those countries, which make a full pan-European project.
Yes, our vision at that point is that, let me say, discussion, it's not adding that much value, because our proposal, it's, let me see, it's pure commercial. For sure, I am Spaniard, I am from Elche, first division football club there. Super proud of that, but that's all, you know. So we are following a P&L. Our footprint in Europe is maximum, so we have more than, in our employees, more than 20 different nationalities. We purchase raw materials, components in Germany, UK, unfortunately also importing components from US, because there is no alternative in Europe at competition level. So if we can purchase something in Elche, I am not going to Madrid. If I can purchase in Madrid, I am not moving to outside Spain, and same is Europe, you know. But unfortunately, how we see that business is fully global business. So even not thinking as a, let me say, as a Spanish company, in my opinion, has nonsense at all for PLD space. Also being European has nonsense, because the global leaders in the launcher industry are global operators. So this is why we have a pure spaceport in Europe for our institutional and commercial customers in Europe, in Kourou. And we also open in Middle East another opportunity for our Asia Pacific and Middle East customers. And we are now working in a third one. Because we want to be a very global company with control of, let me say, European or national of our shareholders that are private, most of them. And for me, it's being a Spaniard, it's very proud because Carlos Alcaraz wants the tennis, but that's all. So we need to be profitable. That's the good question.
Just to complete the answer, so we are a French company, no doubt about that, but the Maya project is a European project, as Lucia rightly says, and just to be a bit more precise, it's 40% of the added value of our launch service that will be generated from Europe, but outside of France. And maybe what is interesting to note is how we reached that result. We reached that result not because somebody told us that we should find our partners in Germany, in Italy, in Spain, because there is a German, Italian, or Spanish money that is available to fund our development. We fund our development with private money. And we select our partners based on their competitiveness, not based on the public money that is available. In the end, we reach a footprint that is not that different from the footprint of Ariane, but through a very different manner, a manner that is much more prone, in my view, to allow us to be competitive, because we select our partners based on their competitiveness, and we are free to change if that changes.
Well, there is a specific to Maya. Maya will have a first stage that will be reusable, propelled by Prometheus engine. There is a demonstrator of an ESA program with an EC funding to fly a reusable demonstrator powered by a Prometheus engine. It seems, well, quite strange from the outside. Who is doing what and what is not what, if you see what I mean, because, well, your first stage is not Themis.
Certainly not. No. Oh, it is another illustration of what I was saying when I said that our intention is not to reinvent the wheel. Our idea is to use the expertise that exists in Europe, and in vast majority of the time, because there has been some support provided by ESA, not yesterday or last year, but over the past decades, that allow various companies in Europe to master technologies that are key for the future. We want our launcher to be reusable because we believe this is a necessary condition for the business plan to be viable. I could elaborate on this if necessary. But if we are doing this, sorry, I forgot what I was about to say. Sorry. Can you just repeat your question? I was
well, no, I wanted to make sure for everyone that you're not flying on Themis.
Yes, and so the first stage is different from Themis. The idea is simply that we use the expertise that exists in Europe, and the fact is that through Themis there are various partners in Europe that have worked on the development of a landing leg, that have worked on the development of a flight control bay, and who master the various blocks, technological blocks that are necessary to recover a first stage vertically on a barge. And so the idea is simply, rather than to reinvent the wheel, once again, to turn to that players. And so to answer specifically to your question, who does what in Themis? Themis is led by Ariane Group. It is a contract signed between Ariane Group and ESA, and that involves a consortium of partners we are not part of. As far as we are concerned, we can knock at the door of those various partners and discuss with them about landing legs to recover a first stage, about a flight control bay, and so on and so forth.
Maybe I'll complement also on the side of who does what beyond the Ariane Group and Ariane Group partners. So actually, Prometheus and Themis are part of a program at ESA called the Future Launchers Preparatory Program. These activities started with decisions at the Ministerial Council in 2019. And then we started an initial development phase with Ariane Group. When I say we, there was a contract between ESA and Ariane Group. And there is funding from the European Commission, indeed, under the SALTO, Horizon Europe program. And the SALTO part is to fund the vertical landing, SALTO, hop tests in Kiruna. And this inscribes itself in complementarity with these activities because it was discussed at length between us, European Space Agency, and the Commission within a huge, bigger frame that is program activities at ESA, which cover the development. And actually, we just signed in November last year riders to the contract with Ariane Group to go beyond in terms of tests, Prometheus, methane, but also trying other propellants, the test bench in Vernon. So you see it's a much wider frame that is at ESA, and then the Commission funded some almost 40 million for those tests.
Well, thank you. Orbex and PLD, you have in common to have, let's say Prime and Euro 5, which are small launchers, but you have also projects for bigger launchers, Proxima and Muranex. Does it mean that you want to grow your line with parallel families, or you want to grow your business to bigger payloads?
We want to do it in parallel. I mean, we don't want to do what SpaceX did. SpaceX stopped Falcon 1 and moved all to Falcon 9. We believe in the market of micro launchers. Micro launcher can never compete in price per kilo. Micro launcher are a taxi for particular missions. ESA has many missions which are not normal missions. They will never find piggyback. Draco is a re-entry mission. Leo PNT is a mission of funny orbit. NeoMag is study of magnetosphere. All those small sats, they can never go with the SpaceX or with a big one because this is not a normal orbit. And we believe in this market, but this market is limited. We want to be a global launcher service provider. That's why we move to Proxima, which our target is to cover the Soyuz gap. Soyuz was successfully launched from Kourou for many missions, for Galileo mission, for science mission. Then this is a gap in the market, but also in the States. If you look to the state launchers, there is a lot of small one, there's a lot of big one, but there's nothing in between. Then we target to the 8-ton, which is, we believe there is a gap, and we understand that there is room for several players. There will be in the big size, Ariane 6, and on the medium size is where we target, because we want to be global, but we will not abandon Prime, which is the small one, because we believe in this market. Only it is limited, is the only question.
Raoul?
Any orbit, any payload, any time. So
I heard that
yeah.
20 years ago from Arianespace.
Yes, true. so that's the commercial claim that we love. So because it's to develop a family, like as you know, Ariane Group, they have like Vega, Soyuz in the past, Ariane, Maya at some point. So I think to complete the family of launcher has a lot of sense, and we want to, let me say, to do the same. As I will say, I learn a lot from the people with heritage. I think we improve some things because we are offering something completely different. So that's our value proposition today. It's to develop a family of vehicles. Our idea is to develop let me say, a 13 tons 2SSO performance vehicle. It's our Muranex to be capable to put in clusters. So the idea is to develop a booster that we are capable to manufacture in real serial production to scale up the amount of units in terms of engines, avionics, components and equipment, structures, everything. And if you have a super small mission like Miguel was mentioning, you have Mura 5. If you need to launch something mid-range and also to launch several satellites, you have Mura next, and also a heavy version of those vehicles to launch whatever you need. So that's our idea. It's like let me say, inspired in what the SpaceX made with the Falcon family rocket. Also, we are thinking about to since the beginning to put all the requirements to be a manned vehicle, not just because of the market to launch astronaut, blah blah, that there will be market or not, we will see. It's because of reliability. because for us, reliability it will be the key. You know, so we are talking about money, time, but for me, it's reliability time, because you can have a lot of money, but if you are not capable to follow the trajectory, it will be impossible to survive, because competition is hard. So I respect a lot what my friends they are developing today. We were, let me say, the first one to do it. Not necessary being the first one. It's something good, because as pioneers, you know, I remember my first visit to CSG back in 2018. It was impossible to put a launch pad there, and we are close to do it. So, so proud to be pioneers, but now it's time to deliver, because the champion, it will be not selected by the institutions. It will be selected by the market. So we will see who will be the winner, and we are putting all of our effort, and I am investing my full life to deliver something good for my company and for Europe.
Well, maybe just two additional comments on the on what the colleagues have said. So I agree with Miguel on the fact that the market for micro launcher exists. There are a lot of people who are interested in the taxi, but provided the taxi can be at the price of the bus. Yeah. And this is all the challenge that we face. It's a bit different from the situation we all know when we have a trade-off to make. Shall I take a taxi or the bus? In our business, the taxi for a satellite operator potentially costs several times the cost of the satellite itself, meaning that the trade-off is not really a real one in most cases. And so if you want to be able or to succeed in launching your taxi, you have to make them at a price that is close, if not equivalent, to the price of the bus. And the second comment is on the scale, working on a more powerful launcher. So this is what I have said already. We are in a business where scale matters. We need also to keep in mind the size of the upgrade that is necessary. As far as we are concerned, I said the launcher will be, the Maya launcher will reach 4 tons in inclined orbit, so we are talking of a launcher that will have between 1/5 and 1/10 the performance of a heavy launcher of the class of Ariane 6 or Falcon 9. This is a huge step. This is one order of magnitude in terms of performance if we want at some point to make a heavy launcher. But when you look at a micro launcher, the step is not one order of magnitude. It's more 2 orders of magnitude. When you can launch a couple of 100 kilograms and you want to be able to target the same size, the same performance as an Ariane 6, it's not a multiplication by 10 that you need to achieve, it's a multiplication by 100. And so the challenge, I'm not saying that the challenge is impossible to reach, but it's obviously a much bigger step.
Raoul, you have 30 seconds.
Yes, no, it's enough. You know, like I fully disagree with that figures, because our cost breakdown today has no sense at all. So we are delivering a rocket that the cost breakdown of manufacturing and operations has no precedence in Europe. So with Mira 5, we are not capable to compete with the ride-share transportation price, but almost. And imagine if we use that cost breakdown at that technology for a larger rocket. So our cost breakdown, because of so many technologies and our procedures, it will be impossible to compete with us in price.
Well, prepare to starve, because I've not. The time is finished, but I'm not finished. I still have one question. When Joseph Aschbacher presented the ELC, he said that the idea was to invest to attract private investors. But one thing I know in the space business is that you have well, you were in Eutelsat, you make a large margin when you're an operator, we make a small margin when you are a satellite manufacturer, and you make almost no margin, or negative one, when you are a launcher provider. How can you attract private investors in these conditions?
Before the ones that are attracting the private investors talk about this, because they're best placed, I want to say that in Boost we've seen this happening already. And with the first contracts, also from the institutional side, we saw an increase in these investments. But also, and Joseph Aschbacher said it, in the ELC there's a clear requirement that is 40% private investment. It's not going to be fully funded by ESA, and there's going to be these checks done along the way in the milestones. And so this is clearly the way we're seeing, and I want to think things are changing also in Europe, not to the extent as they are changed in the other side of the Atlantic, but they are changing.
We fully agree. The ELC is an important step to help private funding, because ELC has two parts. One is grants for development, but also contracts. And this is to have the institution as anchor customer. This is key with that. What you said about the space, we are living the Starlink syndrome. Starlink is affecting all the operators, affecting even the geo, but this is temporary. We are fully optimistic. We have a big momentum in space because of the defense and strategy in Europe. We wake up in Europe, there is all the recovery funds. I mean, there is a unique momentum of space, then we're quite optimistic, and we firmly believe that the profit will come again soon.
I think it's easy because in Europe we have so many examples like of companies like us that we fundraise a lot of private money, but you need to show the profit and the contracts. So that's the key. And this is why we are targeting, let me say, you know, like high reliability, very, very, very competitive cost breakdown to produce, because for me it's not a technology business. So ESA invent the rockets in Europe, so this is not our role. We develop a solution that is super, you know, I love to say that we are space plumbers, you know, like with a lot of product assurance, but we are space plumbers. We are manufacturing like super sophisticated tubes, and we need to manufacture super cheap and reliable tubes. Of course, we are not elevate the state of the art of the rocket, because this is the role of the programs of ESA. For example, our reusability technologies are being developed inside an ESA program, and we are super proud. We are learning a lot about heat shields and things like that. So for us, let me say it's our normal work. So I found the company before ELC opportunity. So my vision is just to develop fully privately funded, and I am waiting for the contract that Miguel said that for me, this is the key. So ESA can invest in PLD space, or we can win a R&D development contract of thousands of millions, that if there is no commercial contract behind, there will be no appetite from private investors.
Johan, if you have a final word, because I know you have a minister to meet.
Yeah, but just a couple of comments on this. So our industry is an industry with long investment cycles. I'm convinced that if you take realistic assumptions, it will take you at least 10 years before a heavy launcher can turn profitable. A small launcher has additional challenges, which makes the time horizon potentially even longer than this, while venture capitalists have a much shorter view and are looking for return on their investment in a much shorter time frame. So you need to solve this kind of paradox if you want to attract venture capitalists at your capital. One way to solve this paradox is to take into account the fact that venture capitalist is not that much interested in the money you will make in 10 years or in 15 years. It is interested in the prospect it has to sell its shares at a higher value than the value at which it entered at your capital. The problem this raises, if we are not careful with this, is that it forces then the management of the companies to work in a direction that is not optimal to ensure the long-term competitiveness. And so as far as we are concerned, we have no venture capitalist today at our capital. We should never say never, but we have the benefit of having a player who knows what it takes to develop such a project, and who is not asking for return on investment over a couple of years. The second comment I wanted to make is on the storytelling to convince investors. The most obvious one is to say that the rocket that we develop is capable of growing quickly, and maybe we will not make a lot of money with our micro launcher or with our mini launcher, But tomorrow, with the heavy launcher, things will be easy because we can benefit from economies of scale. This story can be heard by investors, but it must be credible. And we believe, as far as we are concerned, that this story is credible because the technologies that we intend to use can easily scale up. This is precisely why we decided to bet on the Prometheus engine that we will buy at commercial conditions. We bet on this engine because we believe Ariane Group is the best player to develop rocket engines in the world, but also because the performance of that engine is such that it will be relatively easy, quote unquote, for the Maya rocket to increase in size if the market asks for this.
Well, if you have, if no one has anything to add, that's okay. Please end, it says. Okay, so you have one tiny question.
You will quickly know.
Okay.
So I confirm ministers are going to visit us this afternoon, but I can't preempt for obvious reasons what they want to say and what I will say at this occasion.
Well, I'm really afraid we have to finish because I will be hanged, lynched, if I don't do it. So please, big applause to our speakers. Thank you very much all.